It was supposed to be a shortcut. I'd taken that forest road once before, years ago, when I was 16 and angry. Back then it was just to spite my father, an impulsive drive into the woods at night because I wanted to be alone. The gravel path had been narrow, uneven, filled with potholes and overgrowth. But it had taken me through eventually. This time, I wasn't 16. I was 29, sober, exhausted from grief, and headed to the cemetery to visit someone I had tried not to think about for years. My brother, Caleb. He died when we were teenagers. A hiking trip gone wrong, the kind that tears a family in two. He slipped. That's what we all told ourselves. The fall had broken too much of him to question it further. Closed casket. Few words. I never went back to the trail where it happened. I couldn't. But today, something in me itched. I missed the freeway exit. Or maybe I ignored it. Either way, I found myself slowing in front of the old forest road again, the one that cut through Ashfield Pines. The wooden sign was still there, though time and moss had made it hard to read. I sat at the intersection for a long while, watching wind stir the edges of the forest, before I clicked on my blinker and turned. The tires crunched over gravel. Branches scraped against the car like fingers. My cell signal dropped to nothing. About 15 minutes in, the road narrowed into what barely qualified as a trail. I should have turned back. But something, maybe guilt, maybe memory, urged me on. That's when I saw the sign. It was newer than the rest of the forest, bright red paint on an old wooden post. Dead end, private land, turn back. But no gate. No chains. No one to stop me. And for some reason, I didn't. Another 10 minutes. The road dipped. The trees thickened, and I noticed something strange. The air smelled different. Not like pine or dirt. Almost sterile. Like hospital antiseptic or melted plastic. Then I heard the knocking. 3 distinct knocks on the car roof. I slammed the brakes. My eyes darted to the rear view. Nothing. I rolled down the window, half expecting someone to yell or approach from the woods. But the forest was silent. No wind. No birds. I stepped out. Nothing but my own car idling on a forgotten road. No houses. No lights. No reason for anyone to be there. And then I saw the boot print. It was fresh. Right beside my car. Not mine. Not muddy or worn. Just one, a single, deep impression in the gravel. I got back in the car fast. Locked the doors. My hands were shaking as I grabbed the wheel. When I looked up, the forest had changed. The trees ahead were closer together now, tighter. And past them, barely visible in the dense green, was a clearing and something in it. A figure. Standing. Still. Too far to make out details. But it was facing me. I turned the car around. Or tried to. The wheels spun uselessly, caught in a rut I hadn't even noticed. Mud. Thick, dark, and wet, swallowing the back tires. The road was dry moments ago. I hit the gas. Nothing. I hit it again, harder. Still nothing. Then I made the mistake of looking up again. The figure was gone. But the clearing wasn't empty. There was something lying in the grass. A tarp, maybe. No, a bundle of some kind. Wrapped. I stared too long. Because it moved. At first, I told myself it was just an animal. A deer, maybe. A big one, twitching under some kind of tarp. That would have been the best explanation. But then it unwrapped itself. I couldn't look away. Whatever it was began to slowly rise from the ground, not in a fluid, natural motion, but in stiff, angular jerks, like it didn't remember how to use its limbs. The tarp slid off. It wasn't a deer. It wasn't an animal. It was a boy. A teenage boy. Thin. Pale. Hair matted to his forehead. He stood in the clearing, unsteady, arms hanging low, like they were too heavy. His eyes locked on mine. I should have driven. I should have done anything. But I just sat there, hand on the gear shift, heart in my throat. Then he started walking toward the car. And I saw his face. I hadn't seen it in over 10 years. Not like that. It was Caleb. Not the Caleb I remembered from family photos. Not the quiet, grinning kid from our camping trips. No. This version was exactly how I last saw him. The day before the fall, same hoodie, same scraped sneakers, even the small cut above his left eyebrow where he'd hit a tree branch the morning of our hike. And he was staring at me like I'd just left him there. I threw the car into reverse. The back wheels groaned. The rut fought me. But with a screech of gravel, the car jerked free, and I backed out as fast as I could. I didn't stop until I hit the tree line. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking. My brain couldn't catch up with what I'd seen. I tried to tell myself it was impossible. Some random teenager, maybe even someone playing a cruel trick, had dressed like Caleb. That was it. I pulled out my phone. No signal. Of course. I looked in the rearview mirror. No one was there. But I couldn't shake the image of those eyes. He looked at me like he remembered everything. I made it back to the main road 20 minutes later. The forest seemed thinner now, less alive. Like whatever had been watching me was gone. When I got home, I didn't tell anyone. What could I say? Instead, I dug through an old box in the attic, the one with photos and memorabilia. I found the picture I remembered, Caleb in that hoodie, standing on the overlook from our last trip. Behind him, the forest stretched for miles. I flipped it over. My handwriting was on the back. Day before everything changed. See, I went to bed late that night. Sleep didn't come easy. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him in that clearing. And at 3:14 a.m., I woke up to knocking. 3 knocks. Not at the front door. Not the roof. From my bedroom window. I froze. My apartment was on the 2nd floor. The window faced nothing but the fire escape and a streetlight. But the light was out. I crept over, barely breathing, hands trembling. And there, in the faint reflection of the glass, I saw it. A fingerprint, smudged in the condensation. From the outside, I whipped the window open. Nothing. Just the empty fire escape and the street below. But when I looked down, I saw the boot print again. The same one from the woods, pressed into the dust on the metal stairs. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I just sat on my bed, knees pulled to my chest, staring at the fogged-up window, half expecting to see that face again. But nothing came. Just the silence of 3 a.m. suburbia and the distant hum of a transformer. In the morning, I convinced myself it had been a dream, a stress reaction, maybe even a sleep paralysis hallucination. I hadn't been well. Caleb's anniversary always did something to me. I'd probably imagined everything. That's what I told myself until I opened the door to leave for work. There was a photo on my welcome mat, an old Polaroid, faded, weathered, and damp around the edges. I picked it up slowly, heart hammering. It was of me, not recent. Young me, maybe 15, scowling at the camera. And standing next to me, half out of frame, was Caleb. Same hoodie, same cut on his brow. I flipped it over. Written in shaky black ink. You left me. I called in sick. I drove. Nowhere in particular at first. I didn't even remember starting the car. I just needed to move. To do something. Eventually, I found myself back on the outskirts of Ashfield Pines. I didn't mean to go there. But something about that photo, about the way he'd looked at me, pulled me like gravity. This time, I parked outside the forest entrance. I wasn't going to drive in. I wasn't that stupid. I brought a flashlight, my phone, and a jacket. It was barely 60 degrees, but the air felt colder the closer I got to the tree line. The forest was wrong. Not just overgrown, not just quiet, wrong. Trees leaned at unnatural angles. The underbrush seemed to twist in ways that made no sense. At one point, I found a dead fox lying in the middle of the path, completely intact, but with no eyes. Just smooth skin where the sockets should have been. Like it had never had eyes at all. I pushed on. The deeper I went, the stranger it got. Whispers. I swear I heard whispers. Not in the wind, in my head. Or just beside it. Like someone behind a door speaking through a wall. I couldn't make out words, but the tone was unmistakable. Sad. Angry. Desperate. Then I saw it again, the clearing. But this time it looked different. The grass was flattened. The bundle was gone. In its place stood a row of small objects arranged in a perfect line. Toys. Old toys. The kind Caleb used to collect. A rubber dinosaur. A chipped red race car. A wooden yo-yo. All weathered, but intact. I knelt down, barely breathing. There was something carved into the bark of the tree above them. Stay? A cold wind swept through the clearing. The hair on my arms stood up. And that's when I heard my name. Michael. I turned fast. Nothing. Then again, closer. Behind me. Soft. Michael. I recognized the voice. It was Caleb's, but not Caleb as I remembered him. This voice was older, deeper, like someone trying to sound like him, and not quite getting it right. Michael, please. I backed away. My flashlight flickered. Then the beam landed on something behind a tree. A face. Not a whole body. Just the face, peeking from behind the trunk. Watching me. I dropped the light. Scrambled back, heart thudding like a drum. The whispers surged. Louder now. You left me. You left me. You left me. I turned and ran. I didn't stop until I hit the edge of the forest, lungs burning, sweat freezing on my skin. I dove into my car, locked the doors, and sat shaking for what felt like hours. I should have left, driven home, called someone, burned the forest down. But I didn't, because when I looked at the passenger seat, there was another Polaroid. This time, it was Caleb, standing in the forest. Behind me. I didn't drive home. I checked into a motel an hour outside of Ashfield. Some rundown place off the highway with buzzing lights and stained sheets. But at least the door locked. I needed time. To breathe. To think. I lined up the Polaroids on the nightstand. My 15-year-old face, staring back at me like an accusation. Caleb behind me in the second, half in shadow, expression unreadable. Both photos real. I'd never posed for them. I never remembered them being taken. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Something was reaching out from that forest, and it knew me. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone. No service again, but the motel had a landline. I thought about calling Mom, but what would I say? Hey Mom, remember the son you buried over a decade ago? Yeah, he's back. Only he's not really him, and he might be watching me from the trees. I laughed. It came out hollow. I didn't sleep. I didn't even try. At 3:14 a.m. exactly, the lights flickered, and then the bathroom mirror shattered. Not cracked, shattered. I jumped to my feet. The noise was sharp, clean, like glass snapping under pressure. I rushed to the door, yanked it open, heart hammering. But the hallway outside was empty. When I turned back into the room, I saw it. Written on the fogged window, even though it wasn't cold, were 3 words. Dig. It's here. I stared, numb. Dig? What the hell was I supposed to dig? My phone buzzed. No number. Just a text. Check the trunk. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my keys and ran outside. The lot was silent. My car sat alone under a flickering lamp. The trunk was closed. I opened it. Inside, a shovel and a backpack. I unzipped it. Inside was Caleb's old compass, the one he'd insisted on bringing everywhere. I remembered yelling at him about it the morning of our last hike. We're not crossing the Andes, Caleb. He just laughed. Now it was here, untouched, still scratched on the back with his initials, CM. My stomach twisted. I knew what I had to do. At sunrise, I returned to Ashfield Pines. This time, I didn't stop at the trailhead. I parked deeper, right where the gravel faded into moss. I carried the shovel, the bag. I let the compass guide me. It spun at first, useless, but the deeper I went, the more stable it became. Like it wanted to be found. It finally stopped spinning near a split in the path I didn't remember. The clearing had changed again. Now there was something else in the center. A wooden cross, splintered, rotting, barely standing. I dropped to my knees. I started digging. The soil was loose, almost like someone had already done this before. 1 foot, 2, 3. At 4 feet down, I hit something. Wood. A box. I hesitated. My breath froze in my lungs. Then I pried it open. Inside was a hoodie. Caleb's hoodie. Folded neatly. Beneath it, a journal. Mine. From high school. I didn't even remember losing it. Hands shaking, I opened the first page. Caleb is dead. But I lied. I didn't try to save him. I slammed it shut. I did try. I remembered trying. He fell too fast. There was nothing I could do. I reached for him. I screamed. I almost fell myself. But then I remembered something else. Something I'd buried deeper than the grave. A hand. Grabbing mine. A grip. Weak. Cold. And I let go. Not out of malice. Out of fear. He was pulling me down. And I let go. I collapsed beside the hole. Somewhere in the trees, I heard breathing. The breathing grew louder. It wasn't coming from behind a tree. It was coming from all around me. like the forest itself was exhaling, slow and deep and damp with rot. I scrambled to my feet. The journal fell back into the box. I didn't care. I couldn't stay there. Every part of me screamed to run, but the forest didn't let me move. Because then, he stepped into the clearing. Caleb, just like before. Same hoodie, same haunted face. But now his eyes weren't angry. They were empty. Like glass marbles. Like doll eyes. He pointed at the grave I'd just opened. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. Just the motion. 2 syllables. You knew? I shook my head. No, I didn't. He took a step forward. I backed up into the mound of loose dirt. You left me there, he whispered now. Louder. His voice carried like wind through bone. I didn't mean to. You forgot me. I didn't. You let me go. That last sentence didn't come from his mouth. It came from the forest. Trees shook. The air thickened. And something tall, taller than any man, stepped from the tree line. A figure made of bark and shadow, its face a flat, wooden surface split down the center like a broken mask. Its limbs cracked as it walked. Its hands were too long, and its eyes, 2 black pits, burned with memory. It stood beside Caleb, placing one crooked hand on his shoulder. Then it looked at me. He stays. I couldn't breathe. I dropped to my knees. Please. He's not supposed to be here. He was just a kid. He didn't deserve this. The forest didn't answer. Caleb did. He stepped forward, slowly, and placed something in my hand. The compass. Then he whispered. It still points to home. I looked down. The needle inside was spinning. Fast. Too fast. I looked up. Caleb was gone. The clearing was empty again. The box gone. The toys gone. Even the shovel had vanished. I ran. Through the forest. Branches clawed at me. Whispers chased me. You let me go. You let me go. You let me go. I didn't stop until I hit the edge of the road, or what should have been the road. But it wasn't the road anymore. It was a mirror. A long, black reflection of the forest behind me. I looked down. There was someone staring up. Not me. Him. Caleb. From beneath the surface. He was still there. Trapped. Watching. Begging. I ran again. Through woods that shifted and twisted and bent around my panic. And finally, somehow, I burst out of the trees. Back to the gravel. Back to the car. It was still running. Like I'd never left. I jumped in, slammed the door, and drove like hell until the forest disappeared in the rear view. That was a week ago. Since then, every night at 3:14, I hear the knocking. Sometimes from the window. Sometimes from inside the walls. The compass won't stop spinning. And this morning, I found another photo on my pillow. It was me, standing in the forest, smiling. And behind me, a shadow with Caleb's face, reaching.